Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, let's try that again. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Hey.
There's the Ruach. Wow, it's so amazing. You know, after we concluded our high holiday season with Simchat Torah earlier this week, it's so wonderful to come to a sanctuary so full of life as we bring in this first week of the new Torah cycle. And also, I know how meaningful it is for Rabbi Funky and for myself to have our teacher, Rabbi Feinstein, with us this Shabbat. And we are just delighted to continue learning with him. We're going to get started this evening with our worship with Shalom Aleichem. You can find that, I believe, on page 5 in your red Sidur Lev Shalem. Page 5, Shalom Aleichem.
And I had to bring this melody tonight because I learned this one from VBS, where Rabbi Feinstein was for so many years. So, of course, I had to bring this one. Here we go.
But not this weekend.
Well, yeah, but not this weekend. Exactly right. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Sharei, Malachei Elyonim, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Sharei, Malachei Elyonim, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. La 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 la, Bolechem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyonim, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nila Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyonim, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nila Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyonim, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, Kadosh Baruch Hu. La 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 la, Sichem Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyonim, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la,
We turn to page 10, Yedid Nefesh.
Yedid Nefesh Av HaRachaman V'Shochevtach El Ritzonach Yarutz Avtach Kemo Ishtachaveh mul hadarach yerav lo yedidutav minofet sofei chol ta'am yalai lalai 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 yalai Ahavatach el refanara beharotna noam sivachas titchazek vetitrabeh v'hayta lach shivta olam hayay radai 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 yay radai la 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 We're going to turn to the next page, and we've made it to Shabbat. And I love this line, the kadma fanav b'todah, that we are standing in the face of God with todah, with gratitude. I want to invite us each to take a breath of gratitude in, let it out. What kept you going this week? What do you want to say thank you to? If you were standing in the face of God, what would you say thank you for? We're going to turn ourselves to the words of Yismechu on the bottom of 14. And so many of our psalms, of course, on Shabbat are going to deal with parts of creation. And here, right here, we have the joy of the heavens, the happiness of the earth and the sea. And how sweet of all Shabbats we are at Breshit, recognizing the creation of the universe. We take a pause to just witness how magnificent creation is. If you are still rushing in your mind from your week and haven't yet landed in Shabbat, this is the moment right here. What is going to bring you to your Shabbat? Take your breath in. Maybe take yourselves and your mind to the place of nature that you're so grateful exists. The words of Yismechu allowing a smile to bring a smile to our face. ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ירם הים, ירם הים, ירם הים, ומלואו. ירם הים, ירם הים, ירם הים, ומלואו. ישמחו השמיים,
השמיים
ישמחו השמיים, ישמחו השמיים, ותגל הארץ. ירם הים, ירם הים, ירם הים, ומלואו. ירם הים, ירם הים, ירם הים, ומלואו.
We turn now to page 23, Lecha Dodi. We welcome the Sabbath Bride.
Lecha Dodi, Mikra Kala, Penei Shabbat, Mekabela. Lecha Dodi, Mikra Kala, Penei Shabbat, Mekabela. Shamor v'safon, v'ribor echad, yishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, v'shemo tiferet, v'litilah. Lecha Dodi, Mikra Kala, Penei Shabbat, Mekabela. Lecha Dodi, Mikra Kala, Penei Shabbat, Mekabela. Mikrat Shabbat, Lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor habracha, berosh mikeder v'sucha, sof ma'asei v'machshava tegila. Lecha Dodi, Mikra Kala, Penei Shabbat, Mekabela. Lecha Dodi, Mikra Kala, Penei Shabbat, Mekabela. Mikdash melech, ir melucha, kumitzei, mitoch hafecha, rav lach shevet, ve'emek havecha, ve'hu yachamo, alai chevra. Lecha Dodi, Mikra Kala, Penei Shabbat, Mekabela. Lecha Dodi, Mikra Kala, page 25. Yaminu Smol, Yaminu Smol, Tifrotzi, V'yet Adonai, Taritzi, Al Yarish, Ben Artzi, V'nismecha, V'nagila. Lecha Dodi, Mikra Kala, Penei Shabbat, Mekabela. kala pnei Shabbat nekabela.
We rise and face the door.
Boi v'shalom ateret alav gam b'simcha ובצולה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי קלה לך דודי לקראת קלה פני שבת נקבלו לך דודי Kala pnei Shabbat nekabela.
And we are seated. You know that when someone passes during the holiday, we postpone Shiva until after. And so we turn, even though it's true that Betty Smigel and Leon Zelevitsky both passed and were buried more than a week ago. Carrie Landy, we turn to you, and of course to Howard and Linda Zell, who are currently in the midst of Shiva, and offer you these words of comfort, reminding you that as you dwell in this loss, that you are held in love by our community. Hamakom yenachem etchem betoch shar avalei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May God comfort you among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We turn now to page 27, Sadiq Katamar.
Bam bam ba-da-dum, bam 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 ba-ba-bam bam bam. Bam bam ba-da-dum, ba-dum bam 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 ba-da-dum bam bam. Da-dum da-da-da-dum da-da-da-da-dum
I want to invite now mourners and those observing a yahrzeit to rise in body or spirit and join with me in the words of Kaddish found on page 30. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Be'alma divara kerutei v'yamelich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei techol beit Yisrael ba'agalah uv'zaman kariv ve'imeru amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevarach le'alam ul'omei ul'maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpawar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shemei dekudsha barich hu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alma ve'imeru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imeru amen. Oseh shalom bimaromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshevei tevel ve'imeru. Amen. You may be seated. It's so wonderful to be in the sanctuary with all of you this evening and also be joined by everyone who is with us online. Steve, Susan, and so many others know that your presence is felt with us here in the sanctuary. It's my delight to invite my teacher, Rabbi Funke's teacher as well, Rabbi Ed Feinstein, to share some words with us this evening. Rabbi Feinstein is a storyteller, author, educator, and rabbi of Valley Beth Shalom in Encino, California, a lecturer at the Ziegler School of Rabbinic Studies of the American Jewish University, where he taught Rabbi Funke and I homiletics. That is how we give a sermon. So if you like what I have to say, you can credit this man right here. I have a very long bio to read. Don't bother. I've been told not to bother. Rabbi Feinstein.
Good Shabbos. It's wonderful to be here. There's a lot of COVID going around my community, so we've gone back to wearing masks. So Nina and I, my wife and I, are delighted to be here and to be the only two masked people in the state of Arizona. We got off the plane, and I thought I was wearing some kind of strange hat or something, the way people look. So please don't be shocked. We're okay. We just don't want to make anybody else not okay, so forgive us for this. Thank you for having us this weekend. Thank you for being part of this weekend. It's wonderful to see you. Welcome back. You had another kid, I hear, 6 or 7 by now, right? Wow, how wonderful. And you sound so good. This is Machaya. And Rabbi Andy, it's wonderful. Thank you for your very kind introduction and for not reading the bio, right? But thank you all for having us, and we look forward to sharing a wonderful weekend together. Just a quick thought before we continue with the beautiful davening. There was a rabbi who traveled a circuit among many, many different towns in the old country. Wherever he went, he offered Torah, he offered blessings, he litigated issues, conflicts among the communities, he offered wisdom. And whenever he came to a town, he made a prayer. Ribbono Shel Olam, Master of the world, show me the holy ones who live in this town. And wherever he went, God showed him a sage, a tzaddik, a righteous person, a selfless soul in each of the towns he visited. He came to a particular town, he made his prayer, Ribbono Shel Olam, show me the holy ones in this town. And God became very enthusiastic and said, oh, good. Here's what you do. Go to the marketplace at noon and stand on this corner. You'll see the most exquisite thing. And so the Rebbe went that morning and stood there at noon watching. And he didn't see anything. He saw vendors at their booths. He saw shoppers, he saw families, he saw children, he saw the people of the town, but he saw nothing extraordinary. So that night in his prayers, he said, Ribbono Shel Olam, I must have missed him. Who are the holy ones in this town? And God said, go back. Stand on that corner at noon, you'll see them. So he goes back the next day and he waits. And again, he sees nothing extraordinary. He's looking for a sage. He's looking for a tzaddik. He's looking for someone with a long gray beard. He's looking for that kind of person. Doesn't see anyone. He just sees craftsmen going around there making their crafts. He sees farmers selling their produce. He sees families doing their shopping. So he goes back that evening and he says again, Ribbono Shel Olam, Master of the world, I don't know what's wrong. Show me where I'm supposed to be. God gets a little impatient and says, man, open your eyes. Go back. You'll see them. So this time he goes and he looks. And this is what he sees. In the middle of the day, when the market is filled with people, 2 ordinary-looking fellows enter the market. Completely ordinary people. Except they do something extraordinary. They go around the marketplace. To each and every person in the market, they offer a word. To some, they put an arm around a back. To some, they tell a joke. To some, they offer a word of comfort and consolation. To some, they offer gently a little bit of advice. But each and every person in the marketplace is touched by these two fellows who listen deeply to the souls of those in the market and offer their own souls in return. And the Rebbe sees something amazing. When they leave the market, there is a light, an exquisite light that fills this place. And he goes back that night in his prayers and he says, Master of the world, they are indeed the holiest souls I have ever seen. Abraham Joshua Heschel, the great Jewish philosopher, whose 50th yahrzeit we will celebrate in December, he wrote that we can say nothing about God. God is infinite and we are finite. And philosophically, you can make no positive statement about God. But the Bible allows us one thing. God cares. Caring is the essence of divinity. And when we care, we bring divinity into our lives. We become, as it were, the hands of God and the eyes of God. Our souls are elevated. Because sometimes life is so difficult. Because sometimes life is so burdensome. Because sometimes just being alive and getting through the day can be so heavy that God has sent into the world caring souls to lighten the burden, to lift us up, to give us light, to give us joy, to show us a new way, to remind us to be grateful, to open our eyes to the wonder. These special souls sent into the world, these special souls sent into the world have this remarkable quality. And you won't be able to tell people by the outside. They don't look like those guys in the pictures with the long gray beards. They look like ordinary people. In my community during COVID, we had a thing. We realized that there were 93 members of our synagogue who lived alone. So we created a program. It got the moniker, The War on Isolation. We called them every single week just to see, how are you? What can we do for you? You need groceries. You need medicine. So I got a call one afternoon, during the middle of the pandemic. I got a call in the afternoon from one of my teenagers. He said, Rabbi, I'm over at the CVS pharmacy. Yeah? And I'm supposed to pick up a prescription for Mrs. So-and-so. It's a lady I happen to know who's disabled and lives in an apartment by herself. My mama sent me to get her prescription and deliver it for this afternoon, but the pharmacist won't give it to me. So I put him on a phone. So the pharmacist says, this is Dr. So-and-so, and I say, this is Rabbi Feinstein from VBS. I said, what seems to be the problem? He says, Rabbi, this young man is a minor, and I'm not allowed to give him a prescription medicine without having, an adult here to confirm. I said, listen, I understand. I mean, it's important that you be very careful. Tell me something. Are we talking opioids? And he laughs and says, no, hemorrhoids. So I said, tell you what, could you cut me a little slack? Because this kid is a lovely kid, and this is his project for the shul, for the synagogue. Give him the medicine. I promise next time you'll have all the documentation you need. He said, this kid belongs to your temple? I said, yeah, we got a bunch of kids like this. They're out there delivering groceries and pharmaceutical drugs and medicines and just giving some help to the people who are isolated. He said, wow. Sure, I'll give him the medicine. So, Rabbi, where's your synagogue? I said, it's right up the street. He said, would you take a Catholic boy from Brooklyn as a member? I said, brother, I'd be glad to have you. A little bit of care. Just a little bit of care. A little bit of care changes the world. And not just for the person we care for, but for the person who cares. Shner Zalman, who was the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, said an astonishing Torah. He said, in every believer's life, there are moments when we lose faith. In the life of every religious Jew, there's a time when you just can't believe in God anymore. The world is too cruel. The world is too painful. Life is too heavy. So what do you do in those moments when it's just too hard to believe? Taught Shner Zalman, you go out and do one selfless act of kindness. Care for one person who's alone. Deliver one meal to a hungry person. Teach a kid to do something that kid never thought they could do. Offer a word of goodness to somebody. Do one selfless act of kindness, Touchner Zalman, and you will feel the power of God in your own hands. And once again, you'll become a believer. You have built a wonderful community here. You've overcome a terrible tragedy and returned with a great sense of optimism and strength and joy with a wonderful rabbi and a wonderful sense of community. And I will remind you that the measure of a synagogue community is not the magnificence of its building, although this is pretty nice. That the measure of a synagogue community is not how many thousands and thousands of members we have on our roster. That the measure of a synagogue community is not how many people come on a Shabbos morning we don't have a bar mitzvah. The measure of a synagogue community is very simple. How deeply do we care for each other? How much do we reach out to each other? How much kindness is shown? How much concern is demonstrated? How much gentleness, how many gestures of support and protection and love are offered among us. That's the only measure of a shul that matters. And that's what you support when you support a shul. So that if someone is sick, there's a rabbi, a member of the shul, a call, a meal is delivered, a word is offered. That if someone passes away, a minyan is gathered to lift us up out of our grief. That if there's a simcha, if a child celebrates a moment, we are gathered together to show that child this is what makes a life worth living. That is what we do. And that's what we are going to celebrate in this Shabbos together. One more story that I cherish very, very deeply. There was a rabbi who once asked his students a very simple question. How do you know when night is over and day begins? How do you know when night is over and day begins? Now, the students thought this was a question of halacha, because there are rituals you can do only in the daytime and rituals only allowed at night. So the first of the students said, Rabbi, it's very simple. When I look out into the field and I can see where my field ends and my neighbor's field begins, that's when night is over and day begins. And the second student says, Rabbi, it's even simpler. When I see an animal and I know that's mine and not my neighbor's, I know that's when night is over and day begins. And the third student says, Rabbi, when I'm in the field and I look back and I can see the house and I know it's my house and not the house of my neighbor, that's when night is over and day begins. And each answer, the Rebbe gets angrier and sadder and more despondent, and his eyes filled with tears. And at the last answer, he claps his hand on the table and says, boys, is that what you think we're about? To divide, to disjoin, to disconnect, and to separate? Is that what you think Judaism, Torah, is that what you think God is in the world to do? No, no, no. Night is over and day begins. When you look into the heart and the soul and the eyes of the person who sits next to you, wherever you are in life, the person who sits next to you, and you see that's your brother, that's your sister. Their joy is your joy. Their pain is your pain. Their vision and dream is your vision and your dream. When you look into the eyes of the person who sits beside you and you see that they belong to you, that's when the long, long night is over and the bright new day begins. Let's look at each other and see how much we mean to each other, and begin this Shabbos with a special kind of joy. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Rabbi.
I think that's why he teaches the homiletics class.
We rise now as we turn to the Baruch Hu, the call to worship, page 39. And we are seated.
Baruch atah Adonai, Amari v'aravim.
Page 40.
Time is love, you have loved your people, so Israel. V'avatcha tasir mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael.
41.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha ubechol nafshecha ubechol me'atecha ve'hayu advarim ha'eleh asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom levavecha v'shinantahom levanecha v'nibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'lechtecha b'derech u'shokbecha v'kumecha u'kshartam ne'ot ha'yatecha v'hayu l'totafot b'ninecha u'ktavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'fi sharecha.
Adonai Elohechem, amen. Adonai Elohechem, amen. Page 44.
Oh, mi kamocha ba'erev Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, honor tehilot osefem, honor tehilot osefem. Won't you help us sing song of freedom? 'Cause it's all I ever had. Redemption song, these songs of freedom. Malchut necharau benecha, bokeh yam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Oz Eliam.
freedom. This is all I ever had. Redemption song. These songs of freedom. Redemption song. ונאמר אור כי פניי את יעקב. ולא יד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל.
45.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. All my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't want to fight no more. There'll be no more war, and our children will play one day, one day, one day. Whoa, one day, one day, one day. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu malkeinu lechaim. Ushmor tzitenu v'venu lechaim ushalom me'ata ve'ad olam ufros alenu sukkot shomecha baruch atah Adonai aporei sukkot shalom aleinu v'al kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim.
Amen. We rise for Vishamru, page 46.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת וינפש.
Chatzi Kaddish.
Oh yeah. Yikadav. That one?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Hold on. You know, it's been a while, been a minute. Yikadav Yitkadash Shemei Rabbi.
Amen.
Yamadi Rachi Urtev Yamich Malchutei.
B'chayechon uvyamechon uvchayetecho Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala, ba'agala, uvizman kariv. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba mevorach.
לעולם עולם מעמיה
Yitbarach.
יתברך וישתבח ויפאר ויתשמם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי לקודשה
בריחו.
נעלה מלכו ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תאמירן בעלמה וימרו.
Amen.
Rabbi Nina Feinstein, if you need to talk to me after services about that melody, we can go ahead and do that if I need talking to. She's the queen of that. It's true, don't lie.
We continue with the Friday night Amidah recited in silent standing devotion on page 47 through 52. It's also an opportunity for us to share the personal expressions of our hearts with the one and only who created us all. Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem mechal kalchim b'chesed b'chayim t'brach.
Say shalom imromav.
Yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
Say shalom imromav.
Bimromav Yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Those who have completed their private prayer may be seated. We're going to offer now a special prayer of healing for those who are ill.
May the source of strength, who has blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say,
Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who brought healing to Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal those for whom we now pray, including David ben Gila, Malka bat Hadassah, Peril bat Zipporah, David ben Barbara, Natan ben Tova, Shoshana Sharon ben Chana, David ben Yamin ben Batya bat Sarah, Shmuel Velva ben Devorah, Malka Devorah bat Chana Shifra, Yosef ben Ruth Sarah, Sandy Barnett, Chaya bat Devorah, Bluma Binder, Chaim Israel ben Vichna, Ina Shir, Bob Satz, Harav Feivel Hendel ben Belka, Malka bat Miriam, David ben Elisha, Ari Kenny, Yonah Tzvi HaKohen ben Hinda, Yitzchak ben Gittel, Therese Lank, Laor Yisrael ben Rachel, Bat Yerivka bat Sufia, Pat Zalotnik, John Granick, Aviva Chana bat Tova Tikva, Marty Cohen, Leva Aharon ben Ada, Victoria bat Pesha, Fagel Bracha bat Michal, David ben Leah, Yodit bat Chana, Eliyahu ben Shoshana, Meir David ben Brindle, Rivka Shandel bat Chana, Shalom ben Pesel, Chaim Echel ben Yocheved, Eliyahu David ben Yodit Chana, Shira bat Chaya, Anna Boardman, Chaya bat Rella, Rafal Chaim ben Sylvia, Saravita bat Esther, Perla bat Esther, Barak ben Brach, and all others for whom we pray. May the Holy One restore them to fullness of health, of body, of mind, and of spirit, blessing them, all those dedicated to their care, and all others on the journey towards healing and recovery.
The renewal
of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
Amen.
Refuah Shlema. We rise now as we turn to the Aleinu on page 56.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon HaKol, v'atei gedula le'otzer b'reshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, ve'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkeinu kahem, ve'gor aleinu k'chol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kakadu b'tortecha Adonai yimloch le'olam bo'ed v'ne'emar b'chaya Adonai melech al kol haaretz v'yom hahu yiyeh Adonai echad u'shmo echad.
And we are seated. This week, we recognize the yahrzeits of Joseph Bornstein, Marcia Pfeffer's dad, Margaret Cam, Megan Jalowick's grandmother, Edward Cohen, Robert Cohen's grandfather, Edward Heller, Stephanie Heller's father, Eli Seifert, Marcia Benjamin's father, Meyer Trishansky, Freddie Brown's father-in-law, Edward Switow, Harriet Cooperman's father, Lorraine Carmen, Myra Alpert's mother, David Schlang, Dana Schlang's husband, Esther Jacoby, Marilyn Green's mother, Fanny Catcher, Brenda Schwartz's mother, Hilda Schachter, Yvette Goldstein's mother, and Julie Cohen and Steve Goldstein's grandmother, Ida Figus, Ike Figus' sister, Ruth Levy, Gilda Rothschild's mother, and Aviva Levine and Erica Parcel's grandmother, Carl Stone, Nancy Cohen's father, Esther Vogelman, Carol Padway's mother and Melissa Wiggins' grandmother, Catherine Yaffe, Freya Winsberg's mother, May Feinberg, Erwin Feinberg's mother, and Julie Seifert, Linda Weiss's and Michael Feinberg's grandmother, Philip Rich, Ellen Bacall's father, Zvi Grizak, Hannah Lang's brother, Bluma Rachel Rolnick, Barbara Mark Dreyfus's grandmother, David Hammerman, Michael Hammerman's grandfather, John Demovic, Sandy Levine's father, Lucille Shapiro, Louis Shapiro's late wife, and Beth Shapiro, your mom, Minnie Roth, Richard Resnick's grandmother, Miriam Levy Fried, Marshall Weisberg's mother and Sammy Schwartz's grandmother, Rose Fried, Andy Minkoff's grandmother, and Jack Decker, Corrine Baskin's father of blessed memory. We pray to Heinish Matam Tsurot B'tzura Chaim, that the souls of all of our loved ones past be bound in the bond of life eternal. Invite mourners and those observing Yahrzeit to rise now in body or spirit, joining with me in the words of Kaddish on page 58. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divara kerutei v'yamelich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agalah u'v'zaman kariv ve'imeru amen. Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ul'omei olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpawar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudsha barich hu le'ela min kol birchata b'shirata tushbachata v'nechamata da'amiran be'alama ve'imeru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael ve'imeru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshevei tevel, ve'imeru. Amen. It's now my pleasure to invite Rick Golub to share this evening's announcements.
Shabbat shalom, everybody. Thank you, Rabbi Green. Thank you, Rabbi Funk. There she is in the back, hobbling along. Hope your foot is okay, your toe. And thank you, Rabbi Ed Feinstein, for your wonderful words tonight and for joining us for this incredible Ador Vador weekend. There's a lot of activities on the schedule aside from L'Ador Vador, but for those of you who have registered for tonight's dinner, please, as you enter the social hall afterwards, there's a seating chart that you'll see as you enter the door, and you can check that and find your seats. Okay, to Synagogue Business now. Hooked on Books will be meeting October 30th at 4 p.m. in the social hall. The Social Action Committee will be cooking for the Immigrant Welcome Center at Temple High on November 1st at 5:30. Please talk to Amy Herman if you have any questions about this event. Or Tzion's next junior congregation will be on Saturday, November 5th. Andre over here is the right person to talk to if you're interested or you have kids or grandkids who want to join in those festivities. Let's see, where are we? We've got a lot of little things here, or big things. Kadima is holding a PJs with gratitude on Sunday, November 6th at 11:45 in the social hall, and refer to the bulletin in order to register. If you haven't heard, Rabbi Green is taking Or Tzion to Israel. Have you heard that yet? All right, there's still time to register.
Hadn't heard.
It's happening. It is happening. So if you still have interest and you have not yet registered, you are able to do so, and the rabbi would love to have you along. Project Isaiah 5783 was an incredible success. Kitchen in the Streets received 2,187 pounds of food. Pretty amazing, right? And we raised $9,737. This will provide 15,214 meals for Kitchen on the Street kids. So I think, first of all, thank you to Rita Schlosser for kind of heading that up, and an amazing example our community is giving. It's fantastic. Flu season is here, and for those of you who have not yet gotten a flu shot, the Health and Safety Committee is recommending it for anybody over the age of 6 months. And as you may all know, the new COVID boosters are available as well, and the Health and Safety Committee is encouraging these. Finally, if you borrowed a machzor for the high holidays, please don't forget to return that. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and looking forward to celebrating the weekend with everyone.
Thanks so much, Rick. There's a few other people that are here that I want to welcome. My parents are here from Los Angeles. So Mom and Dad, really glad to have you this weekend. And in addition to my teacher, Rabbi Feinstein, my other teacher, Rabbi Feinstein, is also here. Rabbi Nina Bieber Feinstein is with us. And Nina, it's such a delight to have you here. Aviva, Rabbi Funky was mentioning just a moment ago. That one of the things that so both Rabbis Feinstein taught us, and Rabbi Eddie Feinstein taught us homiletics and how to give a sermon, and Rabbi Nina Bieber Feinstein taught us trope and nusach and how to daven. So when you don't approve of what we do, she doesn't either. Thank you for being here, both of you. We're going to conclude now with Kiddush on page 55. Please rise.
Savri.
L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'ahava u'ratzon hintilanu zikaron l'maaseh bereshit ki hu yom techila b'mikrai kodesh zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim Kivanu macharta, biotanu kidashta, mikomim, v'shabbat kodshecha, bi'ava uvratzon, hinachaltanu, baruch atah Adonai, mikadesh hashabbat.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey, Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Adonai Oz Lemo Yitzan, Adonai Barach Demo V'Shalom.